If you're over 50 and you've ever thought about starting something on your own maybe, but then figured you perhaps left it too late, then this video may be for you. I understand it. I've wondered about it myself. Last week I told you about my dad, who at 49 started his own business back in England after being with the Michelin tire company for nearly 20 years. But he felt that he still had more life left in him and he wanted to do something by himself. And it worked out. 54 years later, that business is still going strong. And maybe I got my father's gene because when I lost my job last year at 56, your instinct tells you that you've got to get another job. Now, in some cases, yeah, if you're lacking in savings, for example, then that may all be a reality. For me, I decided to take a different route. I wanted to do something by myself. And I got to say, I mean, it's been over a year now and it's not easy. I mean, it really isn't easy at all. Like anything else, you get your good days and you get your bad days. One thing I don't get is that Sunday night dread about Monday morning. And I don't want to come across like I'm an expert or anything, because honestly, I'm not. I'm figuring it out each day. I mean, if I had $1 for every time I changed my mind over something, I probably could buy a mansion in the Seychelles or somewhere. I don't know. But, I'm figuring it out. But here's the thing. In the late 90s, people aged 55 to 64, about 15% of them were new entrepreneurs. I mentioned these kind of stats last week. But today, it's roughly 25%. That's about 1 in 4. Think about it. Now, a lot of that could be perhaps because people of our age are losing our jobs, being pushed out of the workforce. And yeah, I would say a lot of the time it's because of ageism. Ageism is a real thing. And I've talked about it so many times. But it doesn't matter in the big picture what the excuse is, because it doesn't make it any easier when it happens to you. But we've always been told, well, when you imagine someone starting a business, a startup company or something, you think of the stereotypical image of some late teenager, early 20s person, probably working from their garage at home, starting a business. Sound familiar? I think Steve Jobs comes into that. I think Bill Gates comes into that. But the point being is that is your stereotypical image. But the reality is more and more people over 50 are starting things themselves. And I've said it countless of times. I mean, but I don't get tired of saying it because I think I really want to kind of hit it home to you. With age comes wisdom. It's a cliche. Don't like using cliches, but it's a true cliche. It really is true. Somebody asked me yesterday what my 16-year-old self would think of me today at 57. With all of the advancements and technologies, being here, living in America, not being back in England. And I said, basically, I couldn't even imagine when I was 16 that I'd be here in America doing what I'm doing, talking to a camera. But here I am. And in my book, Coming Home After 50, I talk about the amount of times I've had to reinvent myself through bankruptcy and divorce, job loss, moving to America. And here I am again in my mid-50s, doing it again. Do I want to be reinventing myself all this time? No, I don't. No, I don't. Kind of feel like I'm getting too old for that. But one thing that I can say for sure is starting my own business and starting this channel, it's done something for me that no other job or career could ever give me. And it's a real feeling of self-purpose, meaning, more so than anything I've done in my life, my working life, I should say. And that's real. That is so real. The thought now of going back to another job kills me. I'll do anything but that. But going back to the whole wisdom thing, at 57, I don't have the same energy that I had at, say, 25, but I have something I didn't have then. That's judgment. Now, let's be honest first. I didn't say it was good judgment. Like I said, I've changed my mind so many times, I've probably lost count by now. And in the last year, I've made mistakes, but I've also watched other people make theirs. But that 30 years of learning doesn't go to waste. And like I said in last week's video, a company, your employer, can take your job off you, but they can't take your skills, your wisdom, and your knowledge from you. They can't take that away. Now, for many people who perhaps have worked in a trade, then that's brilliant. You know, if you work for a plumbing company, you can obviously freelance as a plumber, for example. And probably most plumbers do that anyway. Same if you're a mechanic or anything else. But if you've been involved in knowledge work, well, people will pay for that knowledge. And quite often I've heard even companies will hire contractors for that knowledge, for that expertise. They don't necessarily want to hire someone and take on all of the benefits and everything else they have to pay for, but they will pay for the knowledge. And to quote another cliche, and I apologize, but sometimes you've got to think out of the box. I mean, let's face it, I never thought I'd be doing YouTube in my mid-50s. And even now you hear so many people say, oh, it's a young person's game. But you look at your feed. If you're watching me, this channel, I'm probably willing to bet that you're watching other content creators who are talking on similar subjects. And there's more and more people in their 50s coming out and talking. And if that's something that kind of grabs your interest, then let me know in the comments section. Because if I can be of any help, I'll be more than happy to help in any way that I can. The way I see it is we're a community here. And I share my experiences, my life, what works, what doesn't work, so that hopefully you can, I don't want to say learn, but gain some kind of information. I am going to be making an announcement next week, next Thursday's video. So you may want to subscribe and ring the bell. Kind of exciting news about what I've been working on in the background. And also, you may want to consider signing up for the newsletter, because there'll be equally an announcement coming out in next week's newsletter. So sign up for that too. Think about what you're doing. As someone once said, life is not a rehearsal. This is the real deal. We don't get any second chances. This is it. Once life is gone, it's gone. Don't mean to sound depressing, but really sit down and think to yourself, the experience that you have and the knowledge that you have, and how can you use that? I'm going to leave a link at the end of this video to last week's video where I go over the whole story about my dad and what he did at 49. And I will actually see you on Monday. So until then, thanks for watching. I'm Max. Good to see you. Until the next time, cheers.